Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the sheer force of nature that is the Brahmaputra River. Now, I want you to picture this not just as a huge static body of water on a map, but as a living, breathing character. It's this incredibly dynamic current that physically and culturally connects civilizations across multiple sovereign nations. We're talking about an absolute lifeline that shapes the daily existence of over 110 million people.
But the thing you have to understand about the Brahmaputra is that it has this wild duality, two very distinct faces. On one hand, it's the ultimate cradle of life, right? It provides drinking water, supports vast agriculture, and enables transportation for all those 110 million individuals. On the other hand, it can be a sheer engine of destruction. Its sudden, intense monsoon floods are notorious. They can completely upend lives, submerge cities, and swallow entire villages almost overnight. It gives, and it takes away. So, to really grasp how this river works, we need to trace its path. And what's fascinating is that it actually changes its identity and its name every time it crosses an international border. It starts off as the Yarlung Tsangpo in Tibet, morphs into the fierce Siang or Dihang in India's Arunachal Pradesh, finally becomes the majestic Brahmaputra in Assam, and concludes its epic journey as the Jamuna in Bangladesh.
Let's start right at the beginning. Act 1, Birth of the Purifier. We kick things off way up in the freezing, rugged terrain of the Tibetan Plateau. The river is born from the icy Angsi and Chemayungdung glaciers in the Kailash Range, near Lake Manasaravar. Up here, it's known as the Yarlung Tsangpo, which beautifully translates to the purifier. As it flows eastward across the vast plateau through the Yarlung Valley, it literally acts as the cradle for early Tibetan civilization. And it stays relatively peaceful. Well, until it hits the dramatic Great Bend near Namcha Barwa, where the landscape just forces it to totally change course. Which brings us to Act 2, the Great Himalayan Descent. Leaving that high plateau behind, the river takes a massive pivot south, tearing through some of the deepest gorges on Earth. As it crashes through these rugged Himalayan mountains and enters India through Arunachal Pradesh, it takes on that new identity, the Siang, also known as the Dahang River. And this is a fierce, turbulent descent. The sheer speed and volume of the water here generate immense hydropower potential. It's just a wild, untamed rush of water carving its way through the mountains until it finally hits the plains near the town of Sadia. Right when it hits Sadia, the gateway to Arunachal Pradesh, these wild waters slam into two major tributaries from the left bank, the Lohit and the Debong. And it's really only after this crucial convergence that the river swells up and officially takes on the majestic name we all know, the Brahmaputra. Moving into Act 3, Assam, the Valley of Life. Now, the Brahmaputra carves out this massive, incredibly fertile valley through the state of Assam, a region whose entire existence is pretty much defined by these waters. Culturally, it's totally unique. Most rivers in India are worshipped as goddesses, but not this one. The Brahmaputra is a Paurush river deity, a male river god. The name literally means the son of Brahma, and this divine mythology is everywhere in Assam. Take the Ambubachi Mela at the Kamakhya temple in Guwahati. The river's waters are said to turn red during this time, symbolizing divine femininity and creation. The river even houses Umananda, a shrine dedicated to Lord Shiva, which happens to be one of the world's smallest inhabited river islands. But it's not just myth. This river is the literal lifeblood of regional history. The Brahmaputra nurtured the ancient Kamrup kingdom. Later on, the Ahom dynasty expanded its empire right along these banks, ruling for an astonishing 600 years. Fast forward to 1671, and the river itself becomes a strategic battlefield. During the famous Battle of Saragat, the legendary Ahom commander Lachit Berfuken used brilliant naval warfare tactics right on the Brahmaputra's waters to defeat the invading Mughals. Of course, the Brahmaputra isn't carving this massive path all on its own. It's fed by a really complex network of tributaries coming from regions with heavy, heavy rainfall. On the left bank, you've got rivers like the Lohit and Kopili rushing in. On the right bank, you get powerful flows from the Subamsari, Kameng, and the highly significant Teesta River. This incredible convergence is what brings those vast, intense quantities of water and heavy sediments straight into the main channel. And because of that rich influx of water and sediment, the basin is a bona fide global biodiversity hotspot. The river's floodplains nourish some of the most critical wildlife sanctuaries on the planet. We're talking Kaziranga, Manas, Orang National Parks. Remember that duality? The exact same floods that cause widespread destruction are also what sustain the lakes, wetlands, and grasslands that allow these incredible parks to thrive in the first place. And the wildlife they protect is just astounding. This ecosystem supports the famous one-horned rhinoceros, the endangered Ganges river dolphin, wild buffalo, and Asian elephants. It's also a sanctuary for highly specialized threatened species like the pygmy hog, the Bengal florican, and the critically endangered Indian gharial, which is somehow holding on in fragmented populations up in the upper Brahmaputra. But beyond ecology, the river is an absolute economic powerhouse. It connects major hubs like Guwahati, Assam's largest city, Dimbrigarh, which is famous for its tea estates, and Tezpur, the cultural capital. Crucially, the river serves as India's national waterway too. This inland navigation route is a total lifeline for regional trade, linking the Northeast with the rest of the country and driving a booming freshwater fisheries industry. Yet, we have to circle back to that duality again. Yes, those floods replenish the soil, making it absolutely perfect for cultivating rice, jute, and mustard. But the erosion is relentless. The sheer force of that sediment-heavy water is constantly shifting the river's course, literally swallowing up land and villages. Look at Majuli. It was once recognized as the world's largest river island, but today it is rapidly shrinking because of the continuous, severe erosion from the Brahmaputra.
Next up, Act 4, the final delta.
As the river leaves the plains of Assam and crosses the border into Bangladesh, its identity shifts one final time. Down here, it's known as the Jamuna. It eventually converges with the mighty Ganga, which is known locally as the Padma, and merges with the Meghna River. You can imagine the scale here. This massive collision of three colossal river systems creates one of the absolute largest and most fertile delta regions in the entire world. Ultimately, this combined waterway makes its grand exit into the Bay of Bengal, right through the vast Sundarbans, a global mangrove treasure. This expansive delta supports huge regional trade through ports like Chilmari and Aricha, and it drives a massive fisheries industry. In fact, it's absolutely essential for the famous Hilsa fish, which is a massive staple for local food and regional market demand. And that brings us to Act V, a shared, fragile future. So the modern era brings some unprecedented challenges to a river system of this staggering scale. To put in perspective, the entire Brahmaputra basin spans an enormous 5.8 lakh square kilometers, and it crosses Tibet, China, India, Bhutan, and Bangladesh. Just think about the immense coordination required to manage a single, moving resource that crosses so many sovereign boundaries. Because it is a shared resource, the geopolitics are incredibly complex. Dam construction is a very sensitive issue here. You have China building on the Yarlung Tsangpo, and India developing projects like the Teesta and Karbi Langpai, which understandably causes downstream concerns in Bangladesh. And what makes this so much harder is the lack of a comprehensive, unifying water-sharing treaty for the Brahmaputra, unlike the one that actually exists for the Ganga. So concerns over data sharing and water levels make this a really delicate diplomatic issue across all these nations. Compounding all those geopolitical tensions are some severe environmental threats. Climate change is actively accelerating the melting of the Himalayan glaciers that feed the river, altering those crucial monsoon patterns and causing sea level rises that directly threaten the delta. On the ground, things like unregulated sand mining, deforestation, agricultural runoff, and invasive species like water hyacinth are slowly degrading the basin's health. While it might be less polluted than some other major rivers right now, the warning signs are absolutely clear. Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. The Brahmaputra isn't just water, it's a living consciousness that binds ecology and civilization. But as borders tighten, populations grow, and the glaciers continue to melt, what happens next? Will the son of Brahma remain a sustainable wellspring of life, or is it destined to become a flashpoint for geopolitical and environmental conflict? The future of the Brahmaputra is about so much more than just water management. It is a profound test of human coexistence. Thank you so much for joining me today, and keep exploring.